The Game Awards listed Alan Wake 2 as one of the nominees for Game of the Year back in 2023. Although the game didn't win in that category, I was still amazed it made the list. It's as if there's been a shift in how people view the game, a shift for the better. Whereas I vividly remember how the first iteration of the game, which was released in 2010, was received at large by the general public outside of its core fan base, which was dismissal to negative. Nevertheless, I had been intending to play a new horror game because I wanted a change of pace from what I'm used to. So I thought, why not give Alan Wake a try and start from the beginning? With the remaster of Alan Wake, which the game developer Remedy Entertainment graciously released in 2021. This way, I can form my own opinion on it and hopefully understand what caused the mixed reception. So in this video, I will refrain from discussing spoilers concerning the story except for one thing. I will give a warning beforehand. However, I'll go over everything the game has to offer gameplay-wise in general, which that could be seen as spoilers too, so yeah, be warned. Before that, I want to say hi and welcome to my channel. Please like the video and maybe subscribe. Okay, so let's go on with the video. So Alan Wake's Remastered's gameplay unfolds in episodic format, and I hate to say it, but the whole episodic ruse worked on me. It made me not want to stop mid-episode, which I suppose inadvertently helped me grasp a better scope of how episodes were structured. Few of those episodes were tediously tense and were without a proper break nor at least a switch in the gameplay. For example, it mostly involved engaging in head-on combat in a forest area, but the majority of them had a good balance between gameplay and story sections, as well as different actions you're meant to partake in. And each episode felt like it set a different tone, although more via its atmosphere and story than anything, because some of the environments looked the same, but the levels designed were a good cover for that, specifically how the map felt as seamless as an open world one, yet it was clear where you're meant to go without feeling like you're following a narrow path, and without the interruption of any loading screen. It's a good thing they managed to pull this off because the level's mini-map is utterly useless. You'll have to pay attention to where you came from and look around to see which path you should take next, rather than use the mini-map, the tiny mini-map at the corner of the screen for guidance. I want to clarify, I personally make a distinction between a level's design and a level's type. So when it comes to the game's levels type, a lot of them take place in a forest area lit by the moonlight, some better lit than others, but there weren't enough dark closed-off areas, i.e. buildings, nor enough narrow claustrophobic areas. The frequency rate of levels type made the fear element fade away for me. In other direct words, I was over forest levels, my eyes were strained by them. I just wanted more location variety, or at the very least, less forest ones. Another reason that escalated the eradication of the horror element is the enemies. They got annoying pretty quick. It's easy to get swarmed by them due to their sheer numbers, and they often occur in open area setting. The enemies are supposed to be deterred by lights, but aiming a light in their direction is really not that effective of a defensive move, as it doesn't completely stop them from attacking. They will toss axes, which they seem to have endless supply of, and will attack from different angles, ganging up on the player even prior to the light fading. And that's mainly how the combat plays in this horror game. It can be boiled down to fighting against a horde of enemies most of the time. What's worse is the enemies themselves are not interesting when it comes to their attacks, and there are only 6 different types of them in total. Even saying 6 is stretching it. I'll list the enemies for you and you can decide if 6 is a fair number or not. The first enemy is regular humans. They swing at you with their weapon or they flung them at you. Then there are ones who can also swipe at you but can additionally charge at you. The third type are ones that swerve from side to side, and doing such will make them invisible. By the way, the bosses, if you can even call them that, their attack type is any combination of the aforementioned attack maneuvers. They don't have unique moves, not even weapons that are exclusive to them. Another type of enemies are objects. So the first would be objects that launch at you from air. For example, flying rusty fridge, flying tire, etc. The fifth is self-operating vehicles that would be trying to run over you or hit you in general. The last one is flying crow flock. I can understand to an extent if they didn't want to wild out with enemy types because they might have wanted to maintain a grounded story, or I don't know, like they had a particular vision in mind. But I don't think this is a good enough of an enemy variety. Now I have to bring up the dodge button, which is vital in this game because there is no melee attack. The character you're controlling doesn't even shove enemies when they get close to a kissing distance, but the enemies can shove you. Anyways, to dodge you'll have to use the same walking analog, the left one plus R1. And it seems you can do this while running, so in order to dodge effectively, I think you'll have to stop using the analog stick and then press R1 and push the analog to the left or the right. I say I think because I gave up trying to dodge for the most part. Having to stop running and wait until an enemy attack to dodge is stupid, especially in most of the game's situations where you're not exactly up against only one enemy. I get that having a single button for a dodge might make the game too easy, but having it share the same controls as the walk-in ones is inconvenient. Anywho, the thing I don't mind having a less number of are weapons, because I don't think they change the gameplay to as great of a degree as a different programmed enemy moves do. So I didn't mind having just 3 weapons and 2 tossable ones. There will be some areas where the player will only have access to the lights in hand to fend off enemies, which, as I mentioned earlier, is not that useful against enemies. But in those stages you can just run for it and stay out of enemies' reach. However, there is one scripted section where it's not possible to just run outside of a dangerous area, as the scene has to play out in sequence, and in it you'll have to rely on a CPU character to defend you because you'll have nothing to defend yourself with. Yeah, this works thematically, but it makes for an awful gameplay section. The good news is it's only one stage. The bad news is it's only one stage. Meaning, you only get this chance to figure out how this NPC's AI work and adjust to its flaws accordingly. For instance, this friendly CPU character attacks enemies on his own, but he doesn't prioritize closer enemies. He'll only switch his attention to them if the player character targets them with the lights. I'm aware when criticizing something, it's easy to point out the bad things, but there are good sections here, although they're still kinda held back by the repetitive enemy type. I guess I'll speak about the story now. The thing I really loved about the story is it doesn't come across as a different take on this or that idea, but its own independent thing. The characters were good, but not many of them had sufficient screen time or interactive segments for me to care what happens to them. I feel like they should have let those characters' stories sort of simmer a bit. Instead, in regards to developing a character, the story moves too quickly. Like for example with the bad characters, they were established quickly and then it's time for a face-off. So whenever I had to deal with them, I didn't feel strongly towards them one way or another. Now, with the world building, the game tries to be clever with it, and so instead of learning what has or is going on in the game's world via notes scattered about everywhere, it would communicate those type of details through radios and TVs placed throughout all levels, which you can switch on and listen to. It's as they say, "Care, darling," because why do I have to stand around to hear 3 to 4 minutes of exposition about characters that are inconsequential to the overall story? I felt like those could be cut in half and that would have been better, because at some point those turns into fluff stories. I mean, unlike messages in text format, you can skim through them to see if there is anything of value there. So I just ended up switching the TVs or radios on, and then I would be half listening to them while exploring the level. I didn't even care if I went beyond a listening distance. Sometimes I would just switch them on and just leave if there's nothing to explore. So now I want to share one story spoiler before I share my final thoughts. So, spoiler warning. The ending was a bit abrupt. I genuinely thought I got the bad ending, so I replayed the final stage many of times trying to see if I can get a different outcome, which I don't know. And I even rushed to flip through those scripted pages that I've ignored most of the game. But based on what I saw online, that's the only ending. It seems to be a source of contention among players. Personally, I didn't care about the story like that, so I wasn't too bothered by it. Maybe I was just a little bit, tiny bit ticked off because it's not an ending. It's not even like a cliffhanger. It's just incomplete story, I feel like. So, in conclusion, with Alan Wake Remastered, the further I played it, the more I liked it, but never for its gameplay, because that pretty much plateaued an episode in. I would say if you like story-driven games, you might like this one. But if you expect a good story and above average gaming sections, Alan Wake just doesn't deliver that. You're better off playing any other better known horror franchises. I would argue even point and click horror games such as Franbo have a better overall package and deliver a better experience than this. If it matters, unlike the Uncharted series, this didn't make me lose interest in its follow-up game, but I'm just not sure if there are gameplay improvements from this one in the newer game. So if all I had to look forward to in Alan Wake 2 is a continuation of its story, yeah, I'm good. That's all I had to say about this game. So what are your thoughts on it? What did you think about the game? I would love to know if you liked it or if you didn't like it, like why. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the feedback. Please like the video, share it, and subscribe. I still have another video coming up soon, so yeah, until the next video, bye.